great season. They are 20-9, here to take on the number 17 team in the country, the UNLV Running Rebels. This is up to date, up to the minute. San Diego State, New Mexico are co-champions of the Mountain West. UNLV needs a win tonight to lock up the number 3 seed. Hello to everyone. Ari Wolf alongside the coach, Joe Craven. So glad you're with us. The final game in the Mountain West regular season, one of the greatest regular seasons the Mountain West ever had because of the depth and the parity. And one of those teams that really surprised a lot of people, Coach, Wyoming. And Leonard Washington really emerged this year as a go-to guy for the Cowboys.
Well, all right, Leonard Washington is one of the premier low-block players in the Mountain West Conference. He's had a huge impact on these Cowboys, coming off 2 double-doubles, a really nice 23-point, 12-rebound game against TCU, and he is a 35% three-point shooter.
Lineup for the Cowboys. J.D. Luster, he's a small guy, but plays with so much heart. And either Martinez or Cruz is going to need to knock down some threes tonight for the Cowboys. Now, for UNLV, they have so much to play for as well. They want that 3 seed. They also want a good seed in the NCAA tournament. But tonight is senior night, which adds another emotional component.
4 seniors on this UNLV team. All of them have either graduated or on track to graduate. They have appeared in 474 games between the 4, an outstanding group of young athletes.
Starting lineup for UNLV has all 4 seniors in it because Kendall Wallace getting the start tonight in place of Anthony Marshall to recognize Kendall's contribution to the program. And we are looking forward to this matchup between the Cowboys and the Rebels. Keys to the game are brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. Coach?
Well, for the visiting Cowboys, they need to get off to a good start in this hostile environment, and they need to limit turnovers because turnovers turn into points here in the Thomas & Mack Center. For the home team, they need to get this game up and down the court, 70 points or more if they can, and they need to get their leading scorer, Big Mike Moser, going 4 for 38 in his last 4 games.
And they really need him to pick it up as they get ready for the Mountain West tournament. Larry Shyatt, certainly one of the many candidates to be the coach of the year in the Mountain West, but what he has done this year in his first year back as head coach, 20 wins, amazing. Dave Rice, 24 wins as a first-year head coach. And it's amazing here in Vegas, you know, they beat North Carolina early and really set the bar high. And there are people around here who want to see UNLV start to get hot now because there's no time to mess around. This is a final regular season game and a Mountain West tournament and then March Madness. Here we go. Oscar Belfield brings it up court. His 120th start and his 131st game for the Running Rebels. Chase Standback, he's out of control. Offensive foul. Adam Waddell takes the charge.
Look for UNLV to go in very early to try to get Waddell in foul trouble. Nice movement around the Samba. Then once they got that low post catch, and like you said, Standback a little out of control going to the basket.
Washington looking like a quarterback right there. Is that Brett Smith, the wild quarterback? Right. Beautiful spiral he threw down there, and the easy 2.
That's a pretty good start. Not 1 second, clicks off the clock, and you're up 2-0.
Kendall Wallace pulls up from 16 and gets it to go. A long 2 for Kendall Wallace.
I tell you, a little something different than what I've seen from Kendall Wallace. Usually a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. Put it on the floor that time, kind of created his own shot. Nice, easy basket off the baseline.
I love it when coaches recognize the significance of starting all the seniors when you can do it. Some coaches, you know, get a little paranoid, keep their regular guys out there, but I like the tradition, and I like the fact that Wallace gets to start.
Well, the only difference is putting Wallace in the starting lineup, and he's played in over 100 games, so it's not like starting a guy who doesn't have much experience.
Yep. J.D. Luster's got to create here. Waddell from 14, short. Belfield the rebound.
Nice shot by Waddell, created by Luster there, and that's a good shot for Waddell.
Belfield pulls up the triple. No.
See these teams playing at 2 different speeds already, only 90 seconds into it. Wyoming trying to control the tempo of the game through their offense. UNLV shooting it pretty quick to try to get this thing up and down the court a little bit.
Wyoming looking for the sweep of the Running Rebels. Pump fake by Washington, and he stumbles and loses the basketball. Up in Laramie on February 4th, The Cowboys beat UNLV 68-66. And just another example of how tough it's been for ranked teams going on the road this year in Mountain West Conference.
Well, this is one of the toughest conferences in the league to win on the road.
And Chase Stanback a little too strong. Now, Chase really struggled, Coach, against Wyoming. He only ended up playing 19 minutes. He didn't make a field goal, had 2 free throws and just 2 points.
Had 2 free throws. Wyoming kind of has him figured out. They really want to chase him off the three-point line, make him dribble to a shot. Don't give him any good looks at the three-point shot.
I asked Larry Scheid, I said, is anything different for you tonight with you guys in the number 6 slot? You're locked in for the tourney? He's like, absolutely not. What it would mean to the Cowboys to sweep the running Rebels. Moser connects on the triple.
Well, that's great news for UNLV getting Mike Moser going. He was only 8 of 34 in his last 4 games. Kind of has hit a wall a little bit energy-wise. Only 8 offensive rebounds in the last 9 games. So not the productive or the productivity Mike Moser had earlier in the year.
His last 4 games, 8 points, 6 points, 7, and 5. I mean, it's just hard to believe that he was such a dominant player for so long. But winning at home has been critical. Look at this. In league play, the home team's 38-17. The top 5 teams, 31-3.
That's unbelievable. And sometimes you say, well, they're struggling on the road. Who hasn't struggled on the road in this league this year?
Paco Cruz nails the triple, his 36th made 3 of the season. He's a little over 35% on the season now.
It's way too easy a look for the running Rebels to get Paco Cruz. He caught that right in rhythm, had his feet set. He's not going to miss many of those.
Ball knocked out of bounds. It will remain UNLV basketball.
Getting back to what I said about Wyoming guarding Stanback, you see that's twice he's put the ball on the floor and tried to hurry or tried to create something. That's not his game. Larry Scheid talked at length today about crowding him, pushing him off the three-point line. In fact, he said the more he dribbles, the better off we are.
Long 2 for Oscar Belfield. And how about the consistency and the endurance for Belfield? He's never missed a single game in his 4 years at UNLV.
Well, he started 109 games in a row, 119 starts overall, and he's played in all, like you say, 130 games.
Massamba knocks it out of Waddell's hands. Here come the running Rebels. Moser behind the back. Stanback's triple is another air ball. That's 2 air balls already for Chase Stanback on senior night. Sometimes, you know, the emotion can get the best of you a little bit.
Well, Stanback's rushing too hard, trying to do too much. He's taken 2 or 3 really bad shots so far. He needs to settle in, go run the floor, get something off the glass.
Foul goes against Kendall Wallace, and we have our first timeout here at the Thomas and Mack Center. Oscar Belfield knocks down the jumper on senior night. UNLV with an early. It's the 3rd member of the broadcast team, Molly Sullivan. Molly?
Hey, Ari, last night at practice, Dave Rice announced he was going to start all 4 seniors tonight. And before he could even pull Anthony Marshall aside about giving his starting spot to Kendall Wallace, Marshall actually suggested it first. And get this, as Wyoming was literally stuck in the tunnel waiting to hit the floor last night, Wallace and fellow senior Oscar Belfield were busy putting up some extra shots. I asked Larry Scheid what concerns him most about this UNLV team. He said, well, I can't think of anything that doesn't. He also told his guys, Ari, get this, that they get to play in 2 senior nights. How about that one?
I like it, Molly. Chase Stanback, a rough start here. Still looking for his first points. Had a couple air balls.
Ari's coming off a game where he was 4 of 12 in their loss at Colorado State.
And the fact that they had a 16-point lead with 16 and a half minutes to go. I mean, you give a lot of credit to Tim Miles and Colorado State, but for UNLV, they've had a couple of chances at TCU and at Colorado State, and they wouldn't be in this position. They'd be playing to maybe win the title outright, the regular season title. Instead, their best-case scenario is they're the number 3.
Well, simply stated, Dave Rice said we've had trouble finishing games, and as you allude to, they've blown one 16-point lead in the second half and league play in 118. So you could always second-guess that.
Cruz, the extra pass, and Washington able to track it down. Tough shot. Moser, the rebound. Anthony Marshall now into the game for Wallace. Belfield's going to take a step in, shoot the 3, and why not? Oscar Belfield, a strong start. He's got 5 points.
Boy, Wyoming has got to get back in their transition defense and locate Belfield in particular around that three-point line. Transition defense always big when you play these running Rebels. The emphasis there on running.
And boy, when they get out and run here at home, it really gets the crowd going. They like that up-tempo pace of the game. That's what they got used to back when Jerry Tarkanian was coaching the team. And the motto this year is let's run for the running Rebels. And they've done it for the most part. Tough shot on the baseline. No, Nance is there, though. Can't get the putback. And Chase Stanback comes away with the basketball. Ooh, and a foul on Washington in the backcourt.
Boy, that's what turns coach's hair gray when your best player gets a foul 80 feet away from the basket, and just kind of a frustration foul. Wyoming having a little trouble early on here. They've had some good shots, just like Nance's putback there, and not been able to cash in on anything.
Coach, this Wyoming team, when they play well, they do couple things really well. Defensively, they're tremendous. They're the #1 team in the Mountain West in scoring defense. But the other thing when they're playing well is they don't turn the ball over much. They only had 1 turnover the other night against TCU.
You know, that's almost unheard of. They had 18 assists and 1 turnover. That's off the charts. My teams used to have more turnovers than that before we ever left the locker room.
Justin Hawkins hits the 3. Hawkins plays starters minutes. He plays 25 minutes a game. Very good defender off the bench, Justin Hawkins. Not a good pass. Massamba comes away with it, wants a timeout. Did he get it? Now they're going to say jump ball possession to Wyoming.
Remember, one of the game keys for Wyoming was to get off to a good start. Right now, 13-5.
Hawkins knocking down the triple. Replay brought to you by American First Credit Union, where members come first.
Or that 3 was a production basically off a pick and roll as Massamba rolled to the basket. He was picked up by 2 Wyoming players. They filled right in behind him to an uncontested three-point shot.
Coach, Wyoming's got to be careful here. They're not a team that could score a lot of points quickly. If they get behind by double digits, it's going to be a very long night for them. Nance is fouled on the shot, and Larry Nance Jr. will go to the free throw line to shoot 2. The thing I like about Larry Nance Jr. is it doesn't take him very long to get engaged in the game. You know what I mean? Like, he comes in and gets involved in only 18 minutes per game. He's second on the team in rebounding at 4 rebounds a game.
Well, they had to play him out of necessity, and he is going to reap the benefits out of that. He's a kid that probably, due to his young body and kind of not limited basketball background, but should have been redshirted. I think Larry Schott would have loved to redshirt him, but they had to play him, and he's going to be a much better player because of that.
1 for 2. That stops an 8-0 run for UNLV over the last 3 minutes. Belfield drives. Mosier is there and gets the 2. I'm not sure that's exactly how they designed it, but it worked out pretty well.
It's still going to be an assist for Belfield or the basket for Mosier. Mosier, that was a great pickup. That was like a short hop ground ball that he picked up below his knees and laid up. That was actually a tough shot, about 3 foot away from the basket, right on.
Plenty of time on the shot clock. Cruz drives, gets off the runner and gets it to go. Paco Cruz.
Everything for Wyoming is hurried right now due to UNLV's half-court pressure.
And Wyoming cannot control the defensive rebound. Pretty good athleticism there from Cruz.
Great strength by Cruz there. Played through the hit. Great concentration. Coaches call that a great finish.
Marshall on the block over the smaller defender and gets the 2. Hey, you were talking about, Coach, Anthony Marshall is a guy who somehow manages to fly just a tiny bit under the radar. He's got to be considered one of the top 5 players in the conference.
You know, I do, and you and I do a game, at least 1 game a week in the Mountain West Conference. I started looking at the conference stats. I had no idea Anthony Marshall was having this good of a conference season. 5th in the league in scoring, 10th in free throw percentage, 7th in rebounding, 2nd in assists, and 4th in steals. It's very hard not to have him on the first 5 of the All-Mountain West Conference team.
Well, our good friends at home and the Mountain West fans are going to see what Coach Cravens thinks. We're going to have Coach's picks a little bit later on in the broadcast. And I already know I'm going to agree to disagree on a couple of them. That's the fun of the conference this year. Belfield can't get it to go, but he will go to the free throw line. Luster picks up the foul.
Belfield really focused tonight. He's really taking the battle to Wyoming in this half-court offense. Article about Belfield in the local paper today. He wants to get into the TV business, but he doesn't want to do what you and I are doing. He wants to produce and direct. He wants to be the guy telling us what to do. Much like our producers and directors we have tonight.
I was wondering if you were going to head that direction.
That's the last game of the year. You know, we can get some.
You've already got your travel booked for the tournament. They
right.
got to keep you for at least Thursday, right?
Well, you would think.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Belfield, nice soft touch, goes 2 for 2. Mosier back in the game. Belfield gets his first break.
A very focused Rebel team tonight, it seems.
Well, they love playing here.
Yes.
I mean, there's no getting around. 16-0 at home, got a chance to match the 89-90 championship team going undefeated at home here at the Thomas and Mack. Guido can't get off the shot. Waddell from 16. Yes.
Really nice half-court execution there by Larry Schatz. Wyoming Cowboys. They start in a high 1-4 set. Ultimately roll one post low, pull the other post high, which Waddell did to a wide-open 15-footer.
Quintrell Thomas is fouled. He'll go to the free throw line. Waddell picks up the foul. Now, Quintrell Thomas averages less than 5 points. He's one of the guys who shined against the Cowboys up in Laramie. He went for 15 points in the loss.
Well, Quintrell Thomas has had his day in the sun a few times in his career here. What a great body, 6'8", 245. You know, one might say a little bit inconsistent, but very capable. They have kind of a three-headed monster at that post position between he, Massamba, and Carlos Lopez. And I don't think you talk about any of those individual stat-wise. You talk about them as a group, and it's a very productive group.
J.D. Luster gives to Washington, and Waddell is stripped of a foul. Marshall didn't like the call, but it goes against the running Rebels. We have a break in the action. The Rebels lead by 9. Great college basketball. We are at the Thomas and Mack Center. Rebels lead the Cowboys 19-10. Out-of-town scoreboard is brought to you by Remax. The sign you want, the agent you need. New Mexico with their win, and San Diego State with their win in overtime are co-regular season champions of the Mountain West. And then, Coach, congratulations to Tim Miles and the Rams because they finally won a game on the road in conference play, which is challenging to do. So now we look at the RPI. Now, this is the last official NCAA RPI, and obviously things are changing on the fly.
Well, 4 teams in the top 35 bode very, very well for our conference. Colorado State, the 4th place finisher in our league with the RPI of 27. And for those bracketologists at home, how about this for you? Wyoming's RPI could actually go up if they lose tonight because how high UNLV's RPI is, and that's a road loss. They could actually go up a couple places.
Waddell misses the first one. In Wyoming, we've talked about how great they are limiting teams at the offensive end with their defense. So far, UNLV is 7 of 11 from the field. That's 63.6%. They got to calm down a little bit with Wyoming's tough defense.
That's a great point. The win they had in Laramie was not the low-scoring affair that you would have thought it was. They actually outscored and scored a lot of points in the first half. They're having a hard time getting stops right now against this UNLV team at half court.
Thomas makes the shot.
We talked about Thomas and what he was capable of. Boy, he just forced that one in. He got that ball way too low on the post catch, and he just turned and powered it up.
Washington finds Waddell, and foul on Anthony Marshall.
It's a second great pass by Leonard Washington tonight. He is an outstanding low block player, but he can really extend and not only pass, he's a 35% three-point shooter. He had another really nice bounce pass to Waddell, a paint-to-paint pass. He's just been an outstanding addition to the league and to the Cowboys.
Well, you mentioned all the categories. Anthony Marshall was in the top 10 in the Mountain West. Leonard Washington didn't give him a run for his money. He's in the top 10 in a ton of categories as well. He brings a toughness to this Cowboy team. He's got, look at the demeanor on his face when you watch him play. He is focused.
Well, this Wyoming team has great team chemistry. They have all bought into Larry Shiatt's system, and Leonard Washington right there with all of them. I mean, he is a great team player, a great leader, and again, just a great addition to this program.
Marshall faces up against Guido, gets by him, shot no good, but it'll go to the free throw line. You know, Coach, we were talking at shoot-around. I don't think people who follow college basketball focus enough on players' ability to get to the free throw line. Anthony Marshall will be attempting his 131st and 132nd free throws. That's 39 more than the second guy on the Rebels.
Well, I was just getting ready to say, Arthur Guido, on that particular defensive play, I saw Larry Shiatt put his hand to his head. I'm not sure why he was out pressuring Anthony Marshall chest to chest out beyond the three-point line. One thing that Marshall doesn't do well is shoot the three, only 26% three-point shooter. But if you challenge him to drive, he'll oblige you on that and get it to the basket. He is outstanding getting to the basket and drawing contact.
You love a guy who gets fouls on the other team and gets easy points at the free throw line.
Well, some guys instinctively draw contact. Some guys instinctively avoid contact. This kid is like a heat-seeking missile. When he goes to the basket, he finds a body to put his body in.
10-point lead for UNLV.
Wyoming pulling one post high, rolling the other low post, kind of as a pressure release as much as anything else. UNLV really dialed in the half-court defense.
J.D. Luster misses. Waddell is fouled on the putback attempt.
Great two-handed rebound by Waddell there. Big Q Thomas missed the block out. Watch Thomas turn and go to the basket here. I don't know if we got that on that shot. Waddell following the slide of the ball, finds himself at the free throw line.
Waddell already with 6 points in the game. How do you feel about this strategy of Larry Shiatt? He never puts any of his guys at the free throw line to try to get an offensive rebound.
Well, I think they went to that about halfway through the conference season, and his thought process on that is you do that 5 or 6 times a game, that saves about 10 trips for his team and their legs. He's doing that to conserve energy more than anything else. A very, very short bench for Larry Shiatt.
Belfield. Now it's Marshall, an NBA three. No, Thomas. And Thomas wants the jumper. That's way short. And Luster tracks it down.
Nice job by Luster tracking down that rebound. I think Big Thomas thought since he got the offensive rebound, he deserved the shot. That's not a big shot, man. That's kind of what coaches call a reward shot. You don't really get a reward for getting an offensive rebound.
Thomas timed that beautifully.
A rare turnover by J.D. Luster.
Mosier. Got it. He's got 8 points, and as you said when he hit his first three, that is great news for UNLV fans, because if he can start to get back to the level he was playing at in the middle of the year, they're going to be a tough out in the tournament.
Well, I talked a lot to UNLV staff today about why his stats are down, and he's kind of hit what coaches refer to as the freshman wall, even though he's not a freshman. Now, keep in mind, this kid played sparingly at UCLA as a freshman. He sat out last year, so this is the first year he's really played in college basketball, and I think he's kind of hit a mental and physical wall a little bit, but off to a great start tonight.
Senior night, and you see the 4 seniors for UNLV. Oscar Belfield, just because he started so many games, I think it's going to be strange next year to come to a UNLV game and not see Oscar Belfield running the point.
Chase Standback, of those 4 players, is the only player who has not played in over 100 games here at UNLV. Obviously, at the end of his career, he will surpass 100 games. Oscar Belfield only needs 10 assists to catch Brice Gary, the great point guard from New Mexico, as the all-time assist leader in the Mountain West Conference. It seems like Oscar Belfield's played here for about 8 years.
I agree with you.
Comes from a great program with Coach Ed Zam there at Westchester High School in the Los Angeles area.
Luster getting a break, so number 10, Gilmore's in running the point as Cruz connects. Hits the three-pointer. Cruz has got 8 points.
Too easy a catch for Cruz there. When you let him catch it in rhythm like he did there, he can get right to his shot. And his defensive matchup that time was Anthony Marshall. Marshall's going to deny him one step a little further out.
Belfield picks up the offensive foul. It's his first personal. UNLV's already committed 17 fouls. We've still got 8:50 and change to go in the first half. Wyoming has committed 5 team fouls. There you see the three-point shooting.
Great point guard matchup here between Belfield and Luster. Luster played that entire game against TCU against their great guard quickness, had 8 assists and no turnovers in that game where their team had 18 assists and 1 turnover.
And Larry Shaw to be quick to point out that J.D. Luster's even better defensively than he is as a point guard.
Keep in mind Larry Shaw's background. Head coach at Clemson, assistant coach for 2 national championship teams at Florida. He says he's one of the best 2 or 3 defenders he's ever coached.
A turnover there from Waddell. Running Rebel basketball as Carlos Lopez checks in. Mosier to the bench.
The only good thing about that Wyoming turnover by Wyoming is it was not out around half court where it turns into a basket at the other end. Now at least UNLV has to attack you at half court.
Belfield back to Hawkins. Massamba. And misses the shot. It was good defense from Waddell. Massamba likes to get to a particular spot. Waddell made it tough on him.
Waddell is a very, very good low post defender. And there's no real magic to being a low post defender. You got to stay between the man and the basket and make him score over.
Cruz to Washington for the finish. Oh, that's nice.
That's very nice. A nice draw and kick by Cruz getting the ball in paint, but Leonard Washington, what great athleticism. He got that ball from about 18 feet to the basket about as quick as a he could.
Now just a 6-point deficit for the Cowboys. UNLV started out red hot. Now the Cowboys come up with another turnover.
Next possession down. Watch Luster trying to keep the ball out of the hands of Belfield, which can be very disruptive. Luster just totally turning his back on the ball away from him and just concentrating on keeping the ball out of it.
Washington is fouled hard. We've got a timeout on the floor. Wyoming has climbed back into this game as the Rebel lead is now just a half a dozen. And contract buyout, get up to $200 to switch carriers. A nice look, and then Washington. Nice finish.
Great finish.
Wyoming's done a very nice job, Coach, of getting themselves back in this game. You know, it was senior night. UNLV got off to a hot start. The fans really got engaged in the game. But now Wyoming's back in, and it's gotten very quiet here in the Thomas Mack.
Well, you talked to Larry Shyatt, and I had this same conversation with his son, Jeremy Shyatt, who was on his staff. He says this Wyoming team has great composure. That when they get behind a little bit, they don't panic. They kind of stay at task and take care of business. A chance now to cut it to 4 points. And then Washington, a pretty good free throw shooter as well.
Gets the free throw. Now the student section, what they're doing, they're calling it the Rebellion. And you see now they've got all the big heads, and they've got all the students back there and trying to distract Leonard Washington. Look at the arm on Mosier. Look at how big that thing is. It didn't bother Washington at all.
This is not Leonard Washington's first rodeo. The USC transfer has been around the Pac-10 then, what is going to be the Pac-12. Very highly recruited basketball player out of Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Lopez. Nice up and under, can't finish, but Massamba can. And Coach Rice had very nice things to say about Brice Massamba, how he's really gotten better as the season has progressed and become reliable on the block on both ends of the court.
What Brice Massamba has done throughout his career has improved his athleticism and his body type. As a freshman, he was just a big old, kind of a fat freshman. He's a big, strong kid now as a senior.
He gets the rebound. He must have heard you want to flex his muscles. Good box out.
Wyoming has not been able to cash in on some pretty good shots tonight. Still only down 6. Waddell's missed 2 or 3 that, you know, you want him to take.
Waddell takes another charge. As Brice Massamba picks up his second personal foul. Stanback and Moser are going to come back in.
Anytime you lower that shoulder, it's almost always a foul. And doing what Brice Massamba was trying to do, which is back down Adam Waddell, you got to do it from your waist down, not from your waist up.
And for our Mountain West fans that are just tuning in, New Mexico and San Diego State won today. They are co-regular season champions. San Diego State will be the 1 seed in the tournament. New Mexico, the 2 seed. Now, UNLV needs to win to hold on to the 3 seed. Otherwise, Colorado State becomes the 3 seed, and UNLV is the 4. So lots at stake tonight for the Running Rebels. Wyoming's locked in at 6 as Washington picks up his second foul.
Now, remember, Washington's first foul that I said give coaches gray hair is the one that was 80 feet from the basket with about a minute and a half or 2 minutes gone in the game. Now, that silly foul takes Washington to the bench.
And Coach Scheid will probably keep him over there for the rest of the half.
It depends on what happens score-wise. If they can keep it 6 to 8 points, he certainly will. If it starts getting away from him, he'll get him back in.
Stand back long, 2. Nope. He does not look comfortable tonight.
Well, again, Wyoming's kind of figured him out. They don't give him much to look at off the catch.
Cruz in traffic. No, but Nance the finish. He looked like his pop right there. Jumping out of the gym.
Very shy when he signed him. You see, he looks like a praying mantis, and he does. He's all arms and legs.
And Stanback turns it over. Again, Stanback only played 19 minutes in Laramie, not because of foul trouble. He just struggled against the Cowboys, and we're seeing it again tonight. And UNLV wants and gets a timeout. We'll keep things right here. 4:53 to go in the first half. All right, Coach, we've seen a little bit more than 15 minutes. So I'll come back to what I was going to ask you about. Let's focus on the road ahead, brought to you by Dodge, never neutral. And we look at the brackets. Now, this has UNLV winning this game. Now, if they win this game, San Diego State, Boise State, then Colorado State and TCU in the always intriguing 4-5 matchup. A rematch of this game, Wyoming, UNLV, and then Air Force in New Mexico.
Well, what a prize for Air Force, huh? They have just been decimated by New Mexico twice this year, and that's who they get to look forward to in the first-round matchup. That 4-5 matchup will be a whale of a game between Colorado State and TCU. I had the Colorado State game in Fort Collins where they went double overtime with TCU. A great game. That's going to be, to me, that may be the best matchup of the first round.
Coach, now let me get back to what I want to ask about. We're 15 minutes in, so you've gotten a chance to get the feel of this game. Wyoming down by 4. What's your impression so far, and what do you like?
Well, I don't think Wyoming is playing great, but they've kept it to 4 points. And they're trying to adhere to that age-old formula, keep it close on the road and try to steal it in the end. And if they can keep it to a 4 or 5 point game, maybe 6, then they'll have a chance down the stretch. They just can't let UNLV get away from them and get the crowd into the game. They're in pretty good shape right now. Remember, Leonard Washington, their leading scorer, is on the bench with 2 fouls.
Chase Stanback's got 3 fouls now. He got to go to the bench.
Well, he hadn't given them much tonight anyway. I don't think that's right now is a big loss. Chase Stanback, twice a third-team all-league player.
really bad body language by him too now. You know, instead of cheering his teammates, kind of sulking a little bit.
0 points and 3 fouls for Chase Stanback, who will now go to the bench, and Hawkins comes in.
And again, it's senior night. I know the kid's disappointed, but you know, you got to give a little bit when you're not putting points or stats up. You got to give a little bit more than that to your team. And Stanback's not a bad kid. He just, again, wanting to do better on senior night, but trying maybe a little bit too hard.
We were talking about last week when Jim Christian said he never was more proud of Hank Thorns than when he fouled out of the game and he was the best cheerleader on the bench. You could still help your team even when you're not knocking down shots, as that foul goes against UNLV.
Well, great point. You know, Stanback could have been like Hank Thorns and become a cheerleader and help his team, but yet sitting over there now with a towel over his head and, you know, not really doing much to help anybody.
We see a very disappointed Chase Stanback right now. And there's still so much basketball left to be played. If the Rebels aren't careful and Wyoming gets this win, then UNLV goes into that 4-5 matchup and they would play TCU. And Colorado State would be the 3 seed.
Luke Martinez, who has been pretty quiet tonight with only 2 points before that. And Anthony Marshall has done a great job of guarding him. Luke Martinez, one of the top 3 scorers for this Wyoming team, only had 3 points in the last game. So hopefully he can get back on track before the conference tournament. Ooh, I thought Marshall really missed Lopez in the low block there. That ball should have went inside.
Lopez thought about the jumper, and then Martinez the strip.
Lopez trying to do something he's not capable of there. And I think the frustration setting in there a little bit. They missed him on the low block, so he decides once he does get a catch, he's going to create something. And that's not his game, a face-up player from 15 feet driving.
Martinez, the triple, too strong. Marshall, the rebound. Belfield, got knocked away by Luster. Luster goes and gets it, and it's going to remain UNLV basketball. As we go to break, you see Stanback. He looks so disappointed. But Washington still engaged as he sits on the bench. Jeep, visit Jeep.com or your local dealer. And Larry Nance Jr. getting up high to clean this one up. Larry Nance Jr. becoming a pretty reliable 6th man, true freshman. Making the most of his 18 minutes per game.
Been pretty productive tonight. 6 minutes, he has 3 points and 3 rebounds. 2 of those offensive rebounds.
UNLV is really kind of flat right now.
Well, what's happened, and we knew going into this was going to be a battle of who could seize control of the tempo. UNLV started, remember, really quick out of the gate. Wyoming had a couple turnovers, a couple easy missed shots. Now, Wyoming has seized control of the tempo and really slowed it down, squeezing the ball in each possession and getting pretty good defensive stops.
Marshall, the jumper, no. Wydell, the rebound. So after starting 7 for 11, their next 11 shots, they've only made 3 of them.
Well, that time we talked about the last matchup that got Anthony Marshall to the free throw line. Paco Cruz played him just right, about a step and a half off of him at the 3-point line.
Here comes Marshall, behind the back, gets fouled, can't finish.
And that's where Anthony Marshall is at his best, and that's one of those turnovers by the Cowboys you don't want to make because it turns into points at the other end. Great job by Anthony Marshall, reaching with that lead hand. Nice open court play.
Marshall's got 4 points thus far, 2 for 2 from the free throw line.
Getting back to that matchup on the play before that, Paco Cruz played about a step and a half off of him. Daring him to shoot the 3-pointer. He took one dribble inside the 3-point line. Remember, Arthur Buedo about 8 minutes ago went out and dared him to drive it, which is his game. And I'm sure Larry Shyatt was not real thrilled about Buedo's choice there. UNLV really respecting J.D. Luster as a point guard and really have not gotten out and pressured him too much because
Here's the steal, Justin Hawkins. Steal and the basket for Justin Hawkins.
There's the formula for disaster. 2 steals in a row. Now listen to this crowd get into it. UNLV all of a sudden, energy comes up. Watch it turn into even more half-court pressure now as this crowd really cheers on the home team.
8 turnovers for Wyoming in this game. Keep in mind, in their win on this week, they only had 1.
1 turnover, 18 assists, 1 turnover.
Cruz going to drive, pull up over Massamba, and they needed it.
That's what you call a crowd quieter there. That's a tough shot. Cruz coming off that on-ball screen, getting to the baseline about 8 feet from the basket.
Massamba is fouled.
Great hands there by Hawkins.
Brice Massamba from the line shoots 2.
Chase stand back. How do you feel about a player having a towel on his head on the bench?
I'd vote against that as a head coach. I don't think that's, again, just bad body language.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You know, you made a statement a while ago about his feelings are hurt. How do you think Dave Rice's feelings are right now?
Marshall misses the 3. Nance the rebound. So Wyoming trailing by 5. Hanging in there, you know, you start to play the psychological game. If UNLV maybe squeezes out a win against Wyoming, they're going to have to go against these Cowboys again on Thursday. And it's just not easy to beat Wyoming. Nance.
Well, it's just a grinded-out game against Wyoming. Each possession is so important.
Here we go. Here come the Cowboys. Extra pass. And the dunk goes down, even though Belfield got a hand on it. Credit Martinez with the field goal.
What a great finish. Paco Cruz has handled the ball like a point guard tonight. A couple of different nice dishes off the break. And what a great finish again by Martinez.
And the Cowboys on the run again. Cruz gets stripped. Waddell is back for the Cowboys, so Belfield's going to slow it down. And now Wallace the 3. Wallace.
You know, it's amazing that what's a good shot for some guys is a bad shot for other guys. That's probably a bad shot for some guys. An off-balance 3 and transition. Kendall Wallace did nothing but hit the bottom on that.
Nance picks up the foul. Shot clock is off. UNLV can hold for the final shot.
Watch this shot by Wallace. I thought he was a little off balance there, but in transition, one of the toughest shots in basketball. Pull up 3 off the pass in transition. And again, Kendall Wallace buried it like he was falling out of bed.
What do you like here for the final shot?
Well, it'll come back to Belfield straight away, and he'll come out and set a ball screen if he can get the ball.
Oh, Belfield didn't hustle to get it. Gilmore, and it's blocked by Belfield.
What a turn of events.
Plenty of time still.
Now again, same scenario. They'll try to get it to Belfield. Too late now.
And Moser throws it away. So they don't get an attempt. They had 2 chances in the final 33 seconds.
Well, a great play by Luster trying to keep the ball out of Belfield's hands, which resulted in a turnover, and then a great play by Belfield rejecting the layup by Luster.
So at the half, UNLV leads 36-32. Gilmore hustled, and then Belfield said, I made a mistake. I got to go clean this up. And he gets the block. Well, Oscar Belfield on senior night, a strong first half, and now let's go to Molly.
Thanks, Ari. Coach, you held a strong lead throughout the game, but Wyoming limited your production in the final 4 minutes. How?
Well, they're a very good defensive team. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country, and certainly very good that way. We got to continue to move the ball. Our ball movement was good early, and we got to continue to move the ball. We'll get the things that we like.
Cowboys like to force you off that three-point line and into tough two-point shots. How do you continue to counter that in the second?
Well, the first thing is we got to get defensive rebounds. We didn't get stops. We got them stopped early in the game, and then the last part of the first half, we didn't get them stopped. It's hard to score when you take the ball to the net every time. We got to continue to get stops and push the ball.
Good luck in the second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Molly. So UNLV, just a 4-point lead. Time now to throw it to our studios in Denver for Ram Truck. It's going to be great.
He's accompanied by his parents, Jeff.
Welcome back to the Thomas and Mack Center. Our wolf alongside the coach, Joe Cravens. The final regular season game at Mountain West play. Fittingly, a very tough game. We looked at the stat sheet. Hard to get in. Hard to really find a difference, Coach. So let's go to the keys to the game, and let's dig in and see if we can find a difference here. Keys to the game brought to you by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram.
Or for Wyoming, who needed to get off to a good start, they've made a good game up in this first half by shooting 47% in the first half, but they hurt themselves with 10 first half turnovers. For UNLV, decent job of getting to an up-tempo game. Wyoming sees control the second half, limiting them, and Mike Mosier off to a respectable start, 8 points, 3 rebounds, but didn't get a shot in almost the last 10 minutes of the half.
Coach, if you're Dave Rice, what are you trying to do to get Chase Stanback going in the second half? As he can't afford to have Stanback go into the conference tournament with no confidence.
Well, Stanback is a kid that you have to run plays for, or he plays off the draw and kick, which meaning they penetrate, his guy comes to help, and you kick it to him. Wyoming is not falling into that trap of coming off a Stanback to help. So Stanback has trouble creating his own shot. I think the only thing you can do is run some set plays for him right now.
Chase Stanback in the loss at Laramie, only 2 points in the first half here tonight. 0 points and 3 fouls for Chase Stanback. Massamba. It's been a good matchup, him and Waddell.
See Wyoming not coming to double team there, and Paco Cruz making a very typical mistake by a defender away from a post catch. They start getting focused in on watching the guy in the post, and they lose track of their man. If we could run that back, you can see Paco Cruz watching Brice Massamba in the post and losing sight of his man.
Marshall was 6 points in the first half. 4 of them coming from the free throw line. Make it 5. And now let's check in with Molly.
Hey, Ari, I walked with Larry Shyatt down to the floor. He said the Running Rebels are forcing him to play a little faster, leading to turnovers and rush shots. To quote the legendary John Wooden here in my first halftime report in 5 years, Coach Shyatt said, hey, we need to be quick, but don't hurry. He said we need to eliminate the threes as well. He believes in these guys. He trusts them. He believes that they can turn this W out.
Thank you very much, Molly. Yeah, Wyoming has a look about them and the way they're carrying themselves. They already beat the Running Rebels. They're not intimidated coming here to play.
No, they've got great composure. I talked about that earlier. That is what Coach Shyatt says has been a kind of a mark of his team all year, that from day one they played with great confidence and great composure.
Luster gives to Cruz. Shot clock now at 6. Martinez into the lane. Extra pass. Running out of time and Stanback. And now it's Marshall. Belfield, the triple. Washington goes up high for the rebound, and he's fouled by Moser. That's the first one.
It's a great rebound by Washington. All good rebounders go up and get them with 2 hands. Every once in a while you see a guy get one with 1 hand and they think they've accomplished something. You got to go up with 2 hands, and boy, Washington went up like a man and got that one.
Washington could be in a pickup game with any players anywhere, and I have a feeling people are going to walk away from it like, that is one tough guy.
He is, but you watch him warm up. He loves to get out to that three-point line and shoot three-point shots. Very capable of shooting that, but if he had his brothers, I think he'd wander around the perimeter and just shoot threes.
Massamba off the great pass from Marshall. He didn't have a big window there, but Marshall gets it to the big man for the easy two.
He didn't have a big window, might be the biggest understatement you've made tonight. He put that ball through a keyhole there. Boy, that was a laser and a great catch by Massamba.
The lead is 8. For 4 straight points to start the second half for UNLV. Larry Shyatt gets a timeout. It's a full timeout. We will take a break as well. As UNLV Marshall squeezes it into Massamba, some contact, but the Big Phil able to get the 2 to go. Welcome back. Number 17 UNLV leads Wyoming 40-32. Out-of-town scoreboard is brought to you by RE/MAX. The sign you want, the agent you need. New Mexico with a win at home against Boise State. They clinch co-regular season champions of the Mountain West. Colorado State gets their first win on the road in Mountain West play. And then San Diego State, they find a way to beat TCU. TCU had not lost in conference play, so we have co-regular season champions, the Aztecs and the Lobos. UNLV has to win, Coach, to hold on to the number 3 seed. Otherwise, Colorado State becomes the 3 seed. And we know Wyoming is locked into the number 6 seed.
Well, Ari, it's only appropriate that this, the last game of the regular season, the 56th game of the conference season, that so much is riding on this, and a very, very competitive game here at the Thomas Mack Center.
Cruz, the deep triple. Oh! Gets the kind shooter's roll. It kind of hit the front rim pretty hard. Had enough English on it. Spun in.
A huge shot because UNLV had gotten out to an 8-point lead, which is a huge lead in a low possession game. Cruz knocks that down and gets it back to 5. Boy, that may be the shot of the game so far.
And the second team foul.
3 fouls, Coach, on J.D. Lusters. He's going to take a seat for the time being. Gilmore comes back in. Gilmore's got plenty of experience. He's appeared in 20 games. As Marshall basket in the foul. Cruz picks up the foul, and that was too easy for UNLV.
Well, I tell you, you're seeing something that is a little unusual tonight. Both teams have scored a couple times on in-out-of-bounds plays. Usually this late in the season, boy, it's hard to score on an end-out-of-bounds play because both teams are so well scouted. I think 3 baskets were scored in the first half on end-out-of-bounds plays, and I think that might be the 3rd basket by UNLV on an end-out.
I agree with you. Usually at this time of year, it's just so tough to even get the ball in play, let alone get an easy bucket.
My last telecast, I told my broadcast partner, I said, watching the conference tournament, you'll see maybe 1 out of 10 scores on end-out-of-bounds play. And again, this late in the year, you don't see it done very often, but quite a few tonight.
Fans didn't like that Gilmore kind of pushed off with his left hand. As Belfield just pounding him right now.
We'll talk about the respect for Luster that Belfield had. Didn't really pressure him all night. As soon as he goes out, boy, he cranks it up.
Washington, boy, he got stuck up in the air and still had the strength to get the shot.
A great couple plays. A 3-pointer by Cruz, and then that acrobatic 2 by Washington.
Washington's got half a dozen now.
Martinez just all over Standback when he catches it there, not giving him a look at 3.
And Standback misses the 3, goes out of play.
And that's what you call hunting shots there. Standback's had a bad night, so the first opportunity to get at a 3, he launches it up there and continues to roll that lip out and just kind of have bad body language here in the senior night.
Even if you're struggling, I would think that you'd want to look around and embrace this because it won't be like this Thursday night. There'll be plenty of Runnin' Rebel fans here, but there'll be lots of other fans too. This is your last real opportunity to play at home in front of your fans.
It makes sense to me, and it makes sense to you, and I'm sure it makes sense to Dave Brice and his coaching staff. It just hadn't made sense to Standback yet.
Washington thought about the 3, doesn't want it. Called for the offensive foul. That's his 3rd personal. So now 3 starters have 3 fouls as Massamba a little slow to get up.
Boy, tough call there. Tough break for the Cowboys. But the right call, chest to chest there. Massamba maybe not angled it quite right, but I think Bill Kennedy there, a veteran official, one of the best there is, made the appropriate call.
Lopez too strong. Waddell the rebound.
Washington was lucky he didn't pick up his fourth there. He let... Oh, boy. Lopez really baited him into that one, too. I watched them talk to one another all the way down the court. Lopez gets down there about 2 steps early and gets set up. Watch him right here kind of... Can we run that back just a little bit? When they get to half court, they start a conversation.
And that's 4 fouls on Washington.
That is huge. All day to play, too. 16-25. Watch them at half court where they start kind of mumbling to one another, start this conversation, and watch Lopez beat him down. And
that's acting. I don't like that call. This replay is brought to you by America First Credit Union, where members come first.
And with that, Coach Scheid, which I think is the right move, gets J.D. Luster back in with his 3rd foul. You can't have both those guys sitting over there with this long to play.
Guido the rebound. So Luster and Cruz have 3 apiece, and Washington has 4. And the Cowboys down by 6. Martinez fouled on the 3-point shot attempt by Justin Hawkins. We are going to take a break. In an up-and-down game, but right now, that's a dedicated fan right there. I like that. Drive to the Hoop is brought to you by Jeep. Visit Jeep.com or your local dealer. This came from a little earlier in our broadcast. Marshall to Massamba. Heck of a pass. Brice Massamba, one of 4 seniors, honored tonight at the Thomas & Mack Center on senior night. Look at that. Look at the focus. I mean, the young Cowboy staying up late. I mean, he cares. Mom's keeping him up.
You can keep him in a saddlebag. He's football, isn't he? You know, as Leonard Washington says with his 4th foul, Ari, I come back to that point I've made a couple times tonight. Remember his first foul of the game, 80 feet from the basket, just a frustration foul. You know, had he not made that foul, he's got 3, he's still in the game. That one silly foul, you know, has really cost him and the Cowboys too. He's still got a scowl on his face.
And in all fairness to Leonard, Coach, that 4th foul, I don't think that's the call you make on a guy's 4th foul in a key game. You know, those 2 guys are jawing back and forth, him and Lopez, and there's a tiny bump. I think you just blow the whistle, you come over, you talk to the 2 guys, you separate them and say enough is enough, but now poor Leonard Washington's got to sit on the bench for who knows how long.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
Because then he'd only have 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Lopez, and that's blocked by Waddell. Waddell's having a very strong game defensively.
And Waddell, and I've said this all year, it's great to see him healthy. He struggled for a couple of years with injuries, just could not get healthy. Remember, as a sophomore, he tied a Mountain West Conference record, 22 rebounds against the University of Utah, and then it was just so injury-prone for the next 2 years.
3-point lead for the running Rebels. Hawkins. Soft touch on the finger roll.
Well, something you won't see very often. J.D. Luster did a bad job of guarding the ball there. Really got angled and gave up that dribble penetration. And because he has foul trouble, was afraid to make a defensive stand at the end. But that was much too easy. You don't see this Wyoming team give up many easy baskets like that.
You saw the bench points dominated by UNLV. And there is a small wrinkle to that. Anthony Marshall coming off the bench tonight because it's senior night. But even having said that, the bench has done a very nice job, including Justin Hawkins. Hawkins with 7 points.
Wyoming has 3 guys in the top 10 of the Mountain West Conference in minutes played per game. Again, just not very deep of a bench.
Guido, one of the guys who does come off the bench for Larry Shyatt, knocks down the jumper.
And you look up, and it's a 1-possession game.
And Hawkins missed that badly. Mosier can't finish, then he'll go to the free throw line. You know, he got off to the great start, and he's been real quiet ever since.
Well, we talked about in the last 4 games, he was 8 of 34. And only 8 offensive rebounds in his last 9 games. He just kind of, again, I talked about earlier about he's kind of hit that wall physically and mentally. You know, sometimes mental fatigue is as bad in this college game as physical fatigue. And even Coach Rice said, you know, he's played better at home because of the energy of the crowd that's really helped him. But again, remember, this is his first full season of college basketball.
I happened to be with UNLV the week that he was sick and they were on the road where he helped them win back-to-back games in overtime. And I remember leaving there thinking he was going to be the hands-down player of the year in the conference. But then, boy, did you see Gordon's numbers today? He went for, I think, 30 and 12, some kind of double-double for Drew Gordon. I think he may have wrapped up the conference player of the year. But who knows? We got to wait and see what Coach said. We'll have that for you in a little bit.
I think Gordon has been somewhat unproductive in this last couple of weeks. I didn't see the numbers he put up tonight. Both he and Mosier, the only 2 players in the NCAA this year to have multiple 20 rebound games. So both those guys at times putting up huge numbers.
Well, Gordon played pretty well in their win against Air Force, so it was a fairly easy victory. Good, and the foul.
Just a little late by Waddell getting there, and a really nice, this is just a classic pick and roll here. A screen on the ball, and boy, what a nice little dish by Oscar Belfield. And Brice Massamba, who's become pretty solid for the UNLV Rebels this season, finishes that one.
Coach Rice described him as the most improved player during the course of the season.
And with that, Oscar Belfield only 4 assists short of tying the Mountain West Conference all-time assist record that he will share with Brice Gary, and obviously pass Brice Gary, a great point guard, great 4-year starter at the University of New Mexico. He was one of the toughest.
Just to finish, Gordon, he did go for 30 and 12 today in their win. So he did step up to help them cap off the regular season and become Mountain West champions. Almost a turnover. Cruz. There's going to be a foul on UNLV.
Well, another great call by Bill Kennedy, who had a great angle on that as the trail official.
Wyoming already with 17 fouls, so UNLV in the bonus the rest of the way. That was just the 13th foul on the Rebels. Martinez misses the layup, and that would have been another easy score off an inbounds play.
I tell you, that's really an oddity this time of year, giving up so many scores on in-out-of-bounds plays. Let's see if Wyoming can't zero in here, or UNLV. They did get a stop there.
Waddell back to his left. Nice finish, but he has really been focused. Strong game tonight for Waddell. He now has 9 points and 6 rebounds.
Waddell not only has the type of game, but the personality. He could go to Europe and play for 15 years and make a lot of money.
Massamba wants the jumper. And the big stone connects.
How about that? I thought Waddell played him exactly the way he needed to, kind of gapped him at about 15 feet.
You see that there? The official grabbed Mosier and Nance were getting into it. He grabbed him, talked to both of them. No foul call. We move on.
Yep, I've mentioned that particular official a couple times tonight. A veteran official, Bill Kennedy from the Phoenix area, played basketball at Arizona State. Knows how the game should be played.
As a former coach, did you feel like it was an advantage when you had a referee who was a former player?
I think it is. I think they understand the game. I don't think it's a necessity, but I think that does help them with the feel for the game. Just like there, where he stops and he understands, let's don't let this get out of hand.
Mosier tried to go behind the back. Waddell probably should have had the steal, but lost his footing. We have a break in the action here in Las Vegas. We are going to send it to our friends in Denver. Well, it's time for Joe Craven's all-conference honors. Coach, take it away.
Well, not an easy task, all right, with an outstanding years has been in the league. But Steve Fisher, when you lose 4 starters and an NBA first-round pick and you got your team in the top 25, he gets my vote for the Coach of the Year. Jamal Franklin's been consistent all year, and I think he deserves the Player of the Year. Anthony Drimmick has started every game for Boise State. He leads them in scoring and rebounding. Freshman of the Year. And J.D. Luster, I think one of the best point guard defenders in the nation. Here's my all-conference team. I cheated. I couldn't make a decision for the 5th player between Kendall Williams and Anthony Marshall, so I picked 6. It's my game. I make the rules. So there's my 6 first-team all-Mountain West Conference players. And if you don't like that, I'm taking my ball and going home. There you go.
Just to emphasize your Jamal Franklin pick, he went for 35 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. As the 3 is good for Wallace, and he only played a mere 42 minutes.
Well, that's pretty good night's work, I'll tell you. I think that kid is fabulous. Speaking of fabulous, how about that last shot by Wallace? Remember the first half, I said a good shot for some guys is a bad shot for others. That's his 2nd acrobatic 3 he's buried tonight.
And he's got 8 points in the game. Key points from Kendall Wallace.
Kendall Wallace's absence last year because he was out with knee surgery had a huge negative impact on that Lon Kruger coached UNLV team. They dearly, dearly missed his 3-point shooting. Just can't quite put the Cowboys away. They get up 4, 5, 6, and the Cowboys just keep kind of hanging in there. Kind of their calling card all year.
They've played so many close games. But it's been tough for them to win on the road like everybody else. San Diego State with their win today, both them and New Mexico, the only teams with winning road records in conference play. Both of them finished at 4-3 on the road.
Wyoming's lost the last 4 road games. They're coming off a 2-game winning streak, both those coming at home. Their 15th turnover now.
Wallace basket and the foul right in front of the Rebel bench.
As bad a senior night as Chase Standback is having, Riley Wallace, Kendall Wallace. Riley Wallace is his coach, ex-Hawaii, or his uncle, the ex-Hawaii coach, is having a fabulous senior night.
He sure is. Fans up out of their seats applauding the efforts of Kendall Wallace. Got 11 points in the game, a chance to make it 12.
I mentioned his uncle, Riley Wallace, in attendance at the game tonight. I had a chance to visit with. Nice gentleman and a very, very good and successful college coach.
All of a sudden, it's a 10-point lead for the Running Rebels.
And here comes the crowd. Sounds like a freight train going through the Thomas and Mack Center.
Wallace hasn't missed, Coach. 4 for 4, including 3 threes for 12 points.
And none of them easy.
Nope. Nance, tough shot. Waddell, strip. Here come the Running Rebels. And UNLV turns it over. See if the Kellogg boys can capitalize. They had numbers.
That was a nice job, I thought, by Nance, not trying to make a play there.
You know, Martinez has played in a hurry tonight. I'm not sure why.
Yes, he's one of those guys like Wallace, where you got to kind of bite your lip when he takes that shot, because he's capable of making it. And they needed him to make it.
Wallace, the pump fake, the jumper. Oh, hit it out.
Everything but the bottom there.
J.D. Luster, nobody plays in defense. Luster created the contact, and he'll go to the free throw.
We talked about that earlier, how some players instinctively create contact and some avoid it. Watch the way he goes and finds who is this Massamba's body. The only thing he could have done better was to complete that.
Massamba now has 3 personal fouls, and the team fouls now much closer. Wyoming with 8, UNLV with 6. At one point it was 7-2. And Luster misses the free throw.
Boy, that didn't look good coming out of his hands. He's a pretty good free throw shooter, but that looked bad all the way up there. 70% free throw shooting.
1 for 2 for J.D. Luster.
J.D. Luster and Adam Waddell's Wyoming team both have already graduated, gotten a degree. J.D. Luster coming back and stating this is the most fun he's had playing basketball in his life.
Marshall picks up the foul. That's his third.
Arthur Guido contributing at both ends. Remember, he hit a jump shot earlier in the half, picking up the charge and foul there.
Not a lot of contact. But Guido put the official in the spot where he had to make a call.
Sure he did. Leonard Washington back in the game now with 4 fouls. Almost 10 minutes to play.
He's got to be careful. He plays so hard with so much emotion. He's got to be smart. They're going to need him down the stretch. Luster. And he got caught up in the air. Another turnover. A lot of turnovers tonight for the Cowboys.
15th, coming off a game where they only made 1 turnover, and uncharacteristic for J.D. Luster, his 3rd of the night.
Good pump fake. And Hawkins' foot was on the sideline. So the Cowboys trail by 9, exactly 9 minutes to go. They're still hanging around.
Remember, one of the keys for UNLV tonight was to get Mike Moser going, and he got off to a good start, 8 points, 4 rebounds, but he's been virtually unheard of for about the last 15 minutes or so. I mean, I can't hardly even remember touching the ball. He had it then and tried to make a play, but he's just not been very involved.
We're talking about turnovers. UNLV with 19 points off turnovers. Wyoming with just 7, but that makes sense because UNLV, when they get a turnover, they just get out and run.
Wyoming trying to shorten the game here a little bit, not let it get away from them.
Martinez. Moser the rebound.
Really good defense by Anthony Marshall, and right up in Martinez's good.
Wallace!
That's what you would call a heat check there.
I couldn't agree with you more. That was for about 24 feet.
Well, let's see if we can just make this a spectacular senior night as opposed to a really good one. UNLV up 9.
Shot clock under 10. Guido. Washington, he's got to shoot it. And he's stripped. No, it's a foul on Anthony Marshall. He's got 4 fouls. So Washington for the Cowboys has got 4. Marshall for the Runner Rebels has got 4. We'll be right back. Number 17, UNLV with a 9-point lead over the Cowboys. The Clear Path is brought to you by the Wyoming Department of Transportation. The Whiteout reminds you, buzz driving is drunk driving. Always designate a sober driver. Adam Waddell had a very productive night so far. 9 points and 7 rebounds. Cowboys got enough in the tank, Coach, to come back and win this game?
Well, I think they do. They're going to have to make some shots. 7:46 with their style of play is about like 3 minutes left for somebody else. These free throws will be big, and then they're going to have to pick the pace up a little bit offensively more than defensively.
Hold on. Before the free throw, he gets a practice attempt. That doesn't count.
And here you see Larry Shiatt's philosophy of backing the other 4 players off the free throw line to conserve energy and a few trips up and down the floor. I made mention Wyoming has 3 players in the top 10 of minutes played per game in the Mountain West Conference. There you see to the right of your screen Larry's son, Jeremy Shiatt, who was a ball boy at the University of New Mexico Pitt. When I first met Larry Shiatt, there's Jeremy, his son. He said, I can remember hiding behind the basket when New Mexico upset Arizona in the pit and the crowd rushed the floor. I was terrified. I thought I was going to get run over. He's now one of Larry's assistants. His other associate head coach, Scott Duncan, right here, a longtime friend. Larry Shyatt talked him into leaving UCLA to come be his top man at University of Wyoming. Both those guys were assistants at New Mexico some 25 years ago when I met him.
Washington goes 1 for 2, and if you weren't with us in the first half, Coach Cravens explained why Coach Shyatt has those 4 guys waiting in the backcourt. He says he wants to save their legs because he doesn't have a deep bench, and that's why he does it. Mosier gives it off, and it's Massamba. Basket and the foul.
Well, we've been used to kind of grading Mike Mosier on rebounds and points. What a nifty pass here. Almost like an option quarterback there. That little shuffle pass and a nice finish by Massamba. And the Rebels starting to create a little bit of distance now on Wyoming. And you made the point earlier in the telecast that Wyoming is not the type of team to make up vast numbers of points, especially as the game is coming down to an end.
And the other wrinkle to this whole scenario is if UNLV beats Wyoming, these two teams are playing each other again on Thursday night with bigger stakes.
You know, that's not a whole lot of fun for either team or either coach really right
now. That's tough.
Yeah.
If UNLV does hold on, they will split the season series, each team winning on their home floor. And for the purposes of the tournament, it is called a neutral floor, but fair to say UNLV will be quite a bit more comfortable playing here at the Thomas and Mack during the tournament. Nance the triple, and he connects, and boy, do they need that. It's suddenly an 8-point game. It stops a 4.5-minute field goal drought for the Cowboys.
And that comes off of what I talked about earlier in the game. Wyoming's 1-4 set where one big rolls, the other one pops high to kind of relieve pressure. He's always a catch there. That time Nance catches it and very unexpectedly jumps up and hits a 3.
Only his second made 3 of the season.
Now watch, Waddell rolls low off of this catch, and Nance here looks to pass, and Massamba backs off and just squares up and shoots it like he meant to.
Exactly.
Whether he did or not, only his second 3-point make of the year.
So to give you the foul story, Leonard Washington has 4. J.D. Luster has 4 for Wyoming. Anthony Marshall has 4 for UNLV.
A bad-looking free throw by Belfield. They're a 77% free throw shooter for the year. Doesn't get there as much as you would think for a point guard. Only 27 free throws, which I find kind of hard to believe, but really dropped his hand and not hold his follow-through.
This is the bone, Coach, and it's an 8-point game. This is a critical juncture in the game here. Wyoming gets a basket here, and some of the things are going to get real interesting.
Once again, you see the Cowboys utilize their big guys as catchers to relieve pressure there, because UNLV can really get into you along that perimeter. But it's hard for Massamba to get out and deny Waddell anything.
Martinez, and he drills the 3, and it is a 5-point game, and Martinez must be thinking final, as he has really struggled from the outside tonight. Mosier, basket and the foul.
Remember about 2 plays ago, Mosier made the great pass to Brice Massamba. This time, Massamba returns the favor, big to big, paint-to-paint pass there. There's the great catch and shoot by Martinez.
I mean, with Marshall right in his
Marshall
face.
all over him. And then watch Massamba. A little over-the-shoulder pass there. 2 great passes by interior players.
Mosier, who got his first 8 points, I feel like, in about the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game. That's his first point since then. He now has 10 points in the game.
They did their game here in the Thomas Mack early in the conference season against TCU, and he was so impressive that night. I made the comment that the UNLV fans better watch him now because he's going to get out of here this year to the NBA. Since then, his production has fallen off, and in fact, that night there was a lot of NBA scouts here to watch him. Prototypical NBA, what they call stretch forward, who go out on the floor and shoot it, and at that time putting up big numbers rebound-wise.
All right, Coach, let's revisit the night for senior Kendall Wallace, a fifth-year senior, had to sit out last year with an injury.
Well, this was his first one of the night in transition where he galloped into rhythming up for that three once again. Boy, hitting some tough threes.
And I talked about how sorely he was missed last year by this UNLV team that struggled all year to shoot it in against zones. And you see why they missed him so bad. Not just the kid that hits wide open three-point shots. Boy, I mean, he can hit them with people hanging all over him. He's playing in his 125th game tonight. We made mention of him being in the starting lineup. This kid brings a lot of experience to the floor.
Belfield now has 8 assists in the game, so he's just 2 behind Darius Gary for the all-time leader in assists in the history of the conference.
One thing I like about Belfield, he never changes expression. He just keeps his head down and always plays.
That's on Waddell. That's the right call. He pushed off with the right arm. That's his 3rd personal. Now, that's already 10 team fouls. So it'll be 2 shots here in the double bonus.
Larry Shide has done a terrific job tonight balancing his team through foul trouble, taking them out at the right time, setting them the appropriate number of minutes, getting to the back end. Just a really nice job, kind of a game within a game that he's done tonight. The 20 wins is the first time they've won 20 since the 2003 season, and he has brought the Magic back to the AA. They're starting to come back to cheer for those Cowboys and making it a very, very tough place to play.
Well, it's already tough enough for the opponents to get there. I mean, the middle of winter, it is a factor. I mean, all the coaches talk about, it's tough to go everywhere in this conference, but it's especially difficult to get to Laramie.
No, it really is. And it's always been there. It's not like it just moves. You know, there. I mean, it's always been a tough place to play and a tough place to get to.
Getting close to the 5-minute mark. Cowboys trailing by 10. Time not on their side right now.
Once again, though, you see no panic in their faces, kind of sticking with what got them here. But UNLV, you could say the same thing, making play after play like that great defensive play.
Hawkins blocked by Washington.
What great athleticism by Leonard Washington. Not just that he could run a guard down 75 feet, but that he makes this great timing play. Watch where Washington comes from at 6'7", 245, running like a guard. And showing great timing.
And Hawkins didn't know he was coming. Where I think he probably would have taken it a little bit closer to the rim.
I was all set to sing the praises of UNLV's defense and Anthony Marshall there. He made a great pass to a streaking teammate, and here came Wallace out of nowhere. I would imagine that kid would be a pretty good football player as well, with hands like that and athleticism.
So, Coach, with the conference tournament around the corner starting on Thursday, coming off a season where there's been greater parity throughout the conference from top to bottom. Bill Doman and I have been talking about it the last couple weeks. It's hard to imagine a real upset, you know, because Boise State today at New Mexico had the lead in the second half. And they're going to be playing against San Diego State in that 1-8 matchup. I just think that there's no matchup, the 2-7, the 3-6, 4-5, hard to predict any of it.
Well, let me tell you this, Boise State is the best last-place team in this league I've seen in the history of the league. I mean, the way they shoot it, the way they spread you out, they're capable of winning on neutral floor, beating anybody.
Moser.
Well, if he gets going again, it's just right at the right time for the Running Rebels, as you mentioned, getting ready to host the conference tournament.
Be careful with that term. People do not like to think of them as being the hosts. It's supposed to be a neutral floor.
Well, you know, I'm supposed to be on Broadway, too, but, you know, that's not going to happen.
Drew short on the jumper. Martinez gives to Washington the easy two.
Great plan by Martinez.
A 10-point game, 4:17 to go. And Massamba and J.D. Luster are getting into it again. These teams are, if this score stays like this, they're playing again on Thursday. So any of this bad blood, it'll be interesting to see if any of it carries over. Because things have gotten, the two teams have gotten after each other pretty good.
It's that time of year, big Brice Massamba getting after the tiny J.D. Luster. J.D. Luster not backing down a bit.
J.D. Luster won't back down from anybody.
Let's see what caused this little tussle here. Can we run that back? J.D. Luster just knocked Brice Massamba to the floor.
And we started that replay and we didn't get, it was right before that happened. Massamba ended up on the floor and then had something to say.
Watch right here.
Oh, he gave him a forearm. It looked like that. Didn't it look like his left arm got a little bit extended? I think they're looking at it to see if he threw an elbow.
Someone needs to check him for brass knuckles. He dropped Brice Massamba like a sack of potatoes. Boom. No wonder Massamba took a little exception with that.
Little J.D. Luster, and he wants an explanation. Because if they rule for throwing an elbow, he already had 4 fouls. He's going to be done.
Well, that would be a standing 8 count if that had been a boxing match.
Yeah, J.D.'s done.
We're going to give you a different look, but it's the same result. I was getting ready to pick on Massamba about, you know, picking on the little Luster. Boy, Luster took him to task on that play.
So a technical foul on J.D. Luster.
But he gets credit with a takedown.
I think you feel like it's almost worth it.
You know what? I've talked about the heart of this kid all night. His heart's big enough he could cut it up and give it to some guys on his team. And
that's how I started the broadcast. We did a live. I mean, he's the smallest guy on the floor who plays with more heart than anybody. But he did not have a good night tonight.
No, and it doesn't help his team that he's out of the game now in the final 4-17. And you're right. You know, I hope this bad blood didn't carry over into the first round of the conference tournament, because there's been a little chipping going on, especially here in the second half.
The 2 shots for Kendall Wallace. Dead ball technical foul called on J.D. Luster. So Wallace feels like he's throwing it into the ocean tonight. It's the right guy to pick to shoot the free throws.
And, you know, I was kind of making light of what happened there. The officials called that exactly right, a dead ball technical foul. I mean, Luster, as much as I love him, boy, he extended that arm, and it had to be called. Bruce Hicks, the official standing right in front of me, explaining the call. Once again, I think they made the appropriate call, or the only call it could have been.
So 14 points now for Kendall Wallace as he goes to the bench. The lead is 12 points, and this is getting away from the Cowboys.
And we haven't seen Chase stand back forever and a day.
We sure haven't.
Nice job by Massamba catching that and getting under control, not getting a charge.
Turnover there. And then a foul on Marshall, and he's done. That's 5 fouls on Anthony Marshall. So the Runner Rebel lead is 12. 3:59 to go. We will be right back. The Runner Rebels have been challenged tonight by the Cowboys. But right now, UNLV, the number 17 team in the land with a 12-point lead, 3:59 to go. Want to recap the day for you in the Mountain West. New Mexico won at home to clinch at least a portion of the regular season title. And just prior to our game, San Diego State had to go to overtime to beat TCU in Fort Worth. We have co-regular season champions, New Mexico and San Diego State, as Martinez hits the front end of the 1-1. UNLV needs to win this game to remain in the 3 spot. Coming into this game, we knew Wyoming was going to be the number 6. So if Wyoming can't come back, Colorado State will be the 4. They'll play TCU the 5 in what should be a great matchup in the 4-5 game. And then these two teams will get reacquainted on Thursday in the 3-6 matchup. Massamba.
Not only with the basket, but a great pickup. Anytime you have a guy that big pick the ball up off the floor below his knees, that's a great set of hands.
Massamba on senior night has got 15 points. Both him and Wallace have enjoyed a great senior night. Martinez, he has struggled tonight from the field. He's now 1 of 6 on threes.
Mike Moser showing some energy here in this second half.
There he is getting the offensive rebound. Are they going to give him the basket?
And even though I don't think Waddell meant to throw him to the floor, this kind of builds to the theme of this game.
It has been feisty. It has been tough-minded. It has been physical. Waddell didn't really throw him to the floor.
I don't think he did either. Once again, the officials doing a great job. You know, I thought from this angle that Waddell actually flung him to the floor, and that wasn't the case at all.
So all of a sudden, Moser now has 16 points in the game and 9 rebounds.
Again, good news for him and for running Rebel fans.
Interesting. He was real good at the beginning and then real good at the end of the game. And that middle 20 minutes didn't do a lot. The one guy, though, that I think that they need to be concerned about is Chase Stanback. Because he's not going to score tonight. And then he's got to go right back against these Cowboys on Thursday. And in 2 games, he will have not made a field goal and only had 2 points.
That's a great point, Ari. And how do you get him back on track, getting his head back in the game? When you're going through something like Chase Stanback is right now, having a bad scoring game against a particular team, you've got to forget about scoring and start concentrating on running the floor, offensive rebounding, doing something hard to get something easy. Then all of a sudden you kind of quit concentrating on your shot and you shoot it as an afterthought, and usually your shot comes back. But if you start thinking about, I'm going after every offensive rebound, I'm going to put my head down, run the court every time, then usually good things happen.
And also, if you decide not to settle for a jumper and you drive and you get fouled, maybe the free throw line gets that stroke back. Good drive by Anthony Marshall. He'll go to the free throw line to shoot 2.
Stanback just kind of non-existent tonight.
Well, Waddell has fouled out. And so Chase Stanback, not much of a contribution, but yet UNLV finding a way to win. But I think that's the thing that I like about UNLV, particularly in the NCAA tournament. Depending on who they go against, they don't rely on 1 or 2 guys. It could be one of 5 or 6 different guys could lead this team in scoring on a given night and propel them in the tournament.
No, they're very deep, and they can come at you in a lot of different ways. They can play big. They can play small. We talked about the depth at their post position. They play 3 different guys through there in the start, but then they bring Lopez and Thomas off the bench. So they have the depth and the versatility to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Remember, this is their 25th win of the night, or the year. They're ranked 17th in the nation with a 15 RPI. They're going to get a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament.
This copyrighted telecast of the Mountain West is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience, and any retransmission, reproduction, rebroadcast, or other use or dissemination of this telecast, where the pictures, descriptions, or accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Mountain West Conference is prohibited. The lead is 15 now, and someone's going to see this box score tomorrow and think UNLV cruised. That was not the case. It's only hit 1 3. Like Wyoming has acknowledged they're not going to win. I mean, I thought they'd be way more of a hurry on Martinez. Moser able to save it before it goes out of bounds. I wonder if Coach Rice will use a timeout to get Belfield and Massamba out of the game to get recognized by the fans. It is senior night. Wallace and Stanback already on the bench, the other two seniors. Mosier now has a double-double tonight.
He's using this to coach his team in the next close game they have, running the shot clock down and running a set play at the end of it. Watch Dave Rice still very active over there on the sideline.
He's actually got the ball. Coach Rice is and Wallace is going to check back in. Sarah, I thought we were going to start taking the seniors out. He's putting seniors on the floor. .121 left.
You see Heath Schroyer there in the all-black, the former Wyoming head coach who recruited virtually all these kids with the exception of Nance.
It's got to be weird emotions.
It is. Yeah,
it's got to be complicated.
During the early part of the warm-ups, he was out here shaking hands and hugging kids. And, you know, Heath Schroyer deserves a real tip of the hat of kind of setting the table. Larry Shine's done a great job of these kids buying in and coaching them to 20 wins. But again, you know, the former coach had all these kids, and you know, if things would have fallen into place, you know, the future might have been different.
Well, by the same token, Lon Kruger, these are all Lon Kruger's kids. And Dave Rice has come in and coached him, and he said repeatedly that this team's got great kids on it, and he thanks Lon Kruger for recruiting the right kinds of guys for this program.
Sure. And there's a kid right there. Martinez was out with a broken elbow last year. I talked about Adam Waddell missing so many games during his career. People forget Afam Mujeki, who was one of the best freshmen in the history of the Mountain West Conference, and his career ended with a knee injury. Now you see Belfield and Massamba going out and getting their well-deserved adieu from the fans.
Oscar Belfield, 131 consecutive games. Every game he played, he got on the floor during his entire four-year career at UNLV. Now the stakes get even larger, though. Mountain West tournament starts Thursday, and it's one of the great days. You got 4 quarterfinal matchups.
It was Oscar Belfield, of all the great point guards that have been in the Mountain West Conference in the last few years, he's going to leave as the all-time assist leader. DJ Gay last year, Brice Gary, we talked about. Don't forget about Jimmy Fredette, not only a great scorer, a great passer, also one of the leaders in his career of assists.
Marshall being fouled by Gilmore. He doesn't really like it very much. A foul on Marshall. And now Dave Rice is going to get all of his starters off the floor. Kendall Wallace is going to come out of the game and get a very nice round of applause for Kendall Wallace. That has been a part of the heart and soul of this program for 5 years. Great night for Kendall Wallace. Wallace finishes his night 14 points. And he was 4 of 6 from the field, and he knocked down 3 threes.
Terrific night for the fifth-year senior.
Just a few seconds left here. Gilmore shoots the triple and swishes it. Cheney will bring it up. All he needs to do is get it into the front court. Shot clock is off. Gilmore's not going to let him just let the game end. Creates the turnover. It'll be Wyoming basketball.
Now, those two making the most of their limited time.
Gilmore just looked up at the clock. He wants to get another shot off here. But it's taken away. Wyoming, one last heave. In and out. And that'll do it. UNLV improves. They finished 9-5 in the Mountain West. That is good enough for third place. Wyoming finishes 20-10, 6-8. And they finished in 6th place in the Mountain West. Sixth Man of the Game is brought to you by Motel 6, official economy lodging partner of basketball fans everywhere. Justin Hawkins off the bench. 7 points and 3 assists. He was especially good in the first half. This Wyoming team gave a pretty good battle tonight, and these two teams will play in the 3-6 matchup on Thursday. A lot of great matchups, and now let's check in with Molly, who's with the winning coach. Molly?
Thanks, Ari. Coach, I know assists are always the first stat that you look at with a team featuring as many dribble penetrators as you have. 23 assists, 20 baskets made. Your assessment?
Well, we've talked about team from day one, and we're second in the country in assists. We're fourth in the country on baskets that are assisted, and even though we're a really good defensive team and we push the ball, what we really do well is share the ball. Our guys like each other. It's a huge win for us against a very good Wyoming team.
6 straight W here at the Thomas & Mack Center, 11th longest streak in the country. What do you take away from this game to prepare for the quarterfinals on Thursday?
Well, first thing, it's a great place to play. We hear about all the venues across the country, but the fans are terrific. The Rebellion, our student section is unbelievable. And we talked about it when we got the job, the importance of reestablishing our home court advantage. And the guys were great, and the seniors stepped up and made huge races. How about Kendall Wallace tonight? He was as good as he could be. He was terrific.
And I know you still remember your senior night. We talked a little bit about it. How instrumental has the senior class been in setting your foundation?
Well, when the season started, we dedicated the year to the seniors, which we'll do every year, and that was what mattered tonight. We've got the conference tournament next week, and hopefully the NCAA tournament after that, but tonight we wanted to send the seniors out in the way they needed to go out, and so I'm just so excited for Chase, for Brice, for Oscar, for Kendall, great guys who not only won a lot of games here, but represented the university so positively, both on and off the floor.
See you Thursday for the Mountain West tournament here on the mountain. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you. It's going to be very tough. We play Wyoming again, and you saw how good they are. They've got a terrific team, and Coach Chiat has done a fantastic job.